Hi, I'm Levi with 701 Cycle and Sport. Today we're going to talk about one of the basics when it comes to choosing a snowboard, camber profile. Now, if you're new to snowboarding, or if you've always just wondered what some of these terms mean, there's a lot of jargon involved. We're going to cut through some of that. You might be wondering, what the heck is camber profile? Let's start there. It's simply referring to the shape of the board when you're looking at it side on like this. What are the contact points? What's going on between your feet at the tip and tail, that kind of thing. It's that side view, okay? So let's get into it. This is a flat top. This one right here is the Burton Ripcord. It is a pretty decent board for beginners. It's gonna be stable. It's not the most common shape. You don't see this a ton, but it is stable and good for beginners because it's relatively catch free. Not entirely, you can still catch your edge, but it's going to be a lot more forgiving than some of these other shapes. So this is a good one for beginners. Another good one for beginners is going to be a rocker, also known as reverse camber. It's simply referring to this concave shape here, rocker. This one runs throughout, tip to tail, kind of that rocker shape. This is straight surf inspired, so it's going to have a surfy feel. It's going to feel loose handling. You're not going to have great edge control, but it is going to be forgiving. It's going to be a lot more difficult to catch your edges on this board if you get a little squirrely than some of these other boards. Again, this is a decent beginner board, good park board. It's going to be less poppy than, say, a traditional camber board, which we'll get into, but you're going to again gain some forgiveness. So this is going to be kind of a fun, playful board. Traditional camber, or just straight camber. Traditional camber meaning, well, basically this has been around for a long time. For a long time, this is kind of all there was. This board right here in particular, this is a LibTech Jamie Lynn 96, a throwback to the mid-90s. This is what I learned on. It's not ideal to learn on, but for a time, this is kind of all there was. Why is it not good for beginners? Because you can catch your edges really easily. Your contact points here like to dig in. But what that also gives you is really good edge control. You're gonna have a very locked in feel. You also get really good pop with a traditional camber board. Why? It's simple physics really, because when you load this, it wants to snap back. It just wants to return to its original shape. So you get really good pop with a traditional camber board and really good edge hold. Next, we have kind of a variation on that traditional camber where everything's just set back. Directional camber board, you're going to have that pop, an edge control of a traditional camber board, but whereas a traditional camber board, like the Jamie Lynn 96, is not going to be great in powder. This one's going to be a little bit better because of that early rise. In the nose, you have this rocker that's going to give you float in powder. And so this is going to be a good powder board. If you don't mind riding a little bit more of a directional board. It can be ridden switch, not the kind of board you want if you're going to be riding switch about half the day, that kind of thing, but this is a really good powder board and really good edge control, going to have a pretty aggressive feel. Last, we have kind of a hybrid of some of these. Different companies are going to have different names for their hybrids. This one in particular is a LibTech. This is the T-Rice Pro, Travis Rice Pro model. He's got rocker between his feet. That gives you a kind of a surfy, playful feel. Camber under feet. This is going to give you that locked in feel, so you have that edge control. And then you have rocker at the tip and tail, and that's going to give you some decent float. You also maintain some of that pop and edge control from the traditional camber board. So the idea here is that you're getting some of that pop, edge control without sacrificing too much playfulness. If you kind of want that surfy feel, but also with some pop, this is a good one to go with. Surprisingly, I mean, this is actually kind of a decent beginner board. Even, you know, this is Travis Rice Pro model. He's far from a beginner. Because once you kind of understand the basics here, then a lot of times just preference comes into play. There's also, you'll see, like I said, a lot of variations on a lot of these with different companies. LibTech also has one where they have, instead of rocker between your feet, they have camber, rocker, camber. That's called their C3 versus the C2. So you'll see a lot of variations. Never Summer has one. They call it triple camber. Different things. But once you start seeing the camber versus rocker, what you're going to get, what you're going to lose, you can make a sound decision on your next snowboard. So go ahead and leave your comments, questions down below. Thanks.